Apple is entering one of the most consequential moments in its modern history. Good evening to Front Page. So after more than a decade at the helm, Tim Cook could reportedly step down as Apple CEO as early as next year, triggering the biggest succession transition since Steve Jobs handed him the reins. And the man most likely to take over, John Ternus, Apple's Senior Vice President of Hardware Engineering, the quiet force behind Apple Silicon, the modern iPhone lineup, and the hardware renaissance of the last 5 years. So if this happens, the upcoming 20th anniversary iPhone, the iPhone XX, could become Ternus's first major announcement as CEO. This looks a little more than just a leadership shift. It actually looks like the beginning of a new playbook for Apple. If you are actually waiting to upgrade your older iPhone to iPhone 17 Pro, I know I am, you need to actually listen to this. Apple's insider Mark Gurman recently reported that Apple is preparing the biggest iPhone transformation in its history. Not just a new product, a new release strategy. And here's what's coming. A full redesign kickstarting with the iPhone Air, a foldable iPhone arriving next fall, a new high-end curved class iPhone in 2027, and from 2026 onwards, Apple will release 5 to 6 new models every year, staggering launches across different quarters. So, for a company criticized for slowing innovation, this is Apple hitting the gas, and how. So 3 new iPhones in fall, 3 more in spring, which means we no longer are psyched only about a single mega event each September. We believe this is Apple spreading the risk, smoothing the revenue, and keeping competitors off balance year-round. And yes, you would have guessed it by now. The architect behind much of this reboot is Ternus. Now talking about Tim Cook, of course. He took over in 2011. Apple at the time was worth around $350 billion. Today, Apple's worth over $4 trillion, the most valuable company on earth. He built the world's strongest supply chain. He turned services into a multi-billion-dollar engine. He oversaw Apple Silicon, the watch, the AirPods era, and more importantly, the shift to India manufacturing. But the world Apple faces now is very quite different. AI competition is very real. Mixed reality is unpredictable. iPhone growth is slowing and regulation is intensifying, which is why a leadership reset makes sense. A new CEO for a new technological cycle. And here's another sign that Cook, the era is entering its final chapters. Berkshire Hathaway has cut its Apple stake again, while quietly building a new $4.3 billion position in Alphabet. Warren Buffett has now sold nearly 3/4 of the 900 million Apple shares he once owned. And even after the sell-off, Apple is still Berkshire's largest holding, but the direction is quite unmistakable. Alphabet, meanwhile, has become Berkshire's 10th largest United States stock stake, a rare move from an investor who famously avoided most tech companies for decades. This is the market repositioning itself ahead of Apple's leadership shift. Buffett's portfolio is saying out aloud what Silicon Valley has whispered for months, which is the next battle in technology is AI first, not iPhone first. And Apple needs the right CEO to lead that very pivot. John Ternus represents everything Apple wants the next decade to look like, which is hardware-led innovation device, plus silicon integration, more ambitious industrial design, a focus on AI happening on device, not in the cloud, and a willingness to take risks that Apple avoided under Cook. So, If Cook was the stability CEO, Ternus could become the reinvention CEO. Apple has been criticized for being slow in AI, while Google, OpenAI, Meta, and even Samsung chase generative AI and multimodal systems. Apple focused on privacy, hardware cycles, and incremental upgrades. But with a new CEO, a new iPhone strategy, and a revamped AI roadmap, Apple appears ready to fight for relevance again. And the timing, well, is perfect. The iPhone XX era may be Apple's attempt to reclaim the innovation narrative. A hardware driven Apple led by Ternus is, well, good news for India because Apple is deepening its India footprint, expanding manufacturing, moving more component suppliers into the country, training local engineering and operations teams, planning deeper integration for India as its second major hub after China. Before I move on, I need to apologize. It is not Apple XX. I pronounced that incorrectly. It is iPhone 20. It is not iPhone XX. Mea culpa. Now, of course, moving on. So if Apple is preparing for a hardware supercycle, India will be central to that execution. And here is the front page final take. Tim Cook stepping down would mark the end of one of the most successful CEO tenures in history. But it also raises the biggest question Apple has faced in years, which is John Ternus the right person to lead Apple through the next wave, which promises to bring with it foldables, AI native devices, and the iPhone 20 era. Because Apple is changing momentum, changing timing, changing strategy, changing the way it actually builds and releases the world's most iconic device, a new iPhone, a new schedule, a new vision, and maybe a new CEO. The only question is, will the Ternus era push Apple into its next trillion-dollar chapter, or will it expose how hard it is to fill Tim Cook's shoes? Please do let us know what you think in the comments below, and please stay with us as we track this leadership story at the world's most influential technology company in real time.